Okay, folks, so I've got a little bit of the two-part epoxy putty. There's various manufacturers of this, whatever works for you. My particular brand that I'm using is Magic Sculpt, but it's just a 50-50 mix, AB mix of epoxy putty. I'm just kind of working it together. I like to really kind of overwork it a little bit. It heats it up a little bit, makes it thinner, easier, more malleable. But get that. I'm going to put a little blob of it in there. And I'm going to get one of my magnets. And I'm going to put the magnet in here. And so what happens is when I press this magnet into place, it's actually going to push out a little bit of that resin. Now all I'm trying to do is get this level in there. So here's the other trick that I use. Well, if I want it in there perfectly, why not use the part that mates up with it, which is her leg. So I just kind of use the leg, press it into place. And there we go. Nice. All right. So I'm just going to blend this in as best I can, and I'm putting just a little coat of the putty right over the magnet itself. So, all right. So that's looking pretty good. Probably overworking it, honestly. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to let that sit. That's the one downside to using epoxy putty, is that it usually takes about 24 hours for it to set up. But once I get that done, then we're going to tackle getting the magnet in the leg. So stay tuned. All right, so through the magic of video editing, we're jumping back in here. The epoxy here is not completely set, but it's set enough where it's relatively dry to the touch, good enough. So really, if you go ahead and let this set for 24 hours or whatever it is for your particular brand, to make sure that it is completely set in there, this next step becomes a lot easier. What I want to do is I'm going to just take a little piece of Mylar. It has to be something plastic, something other than paper. So it could be saran wrap, something like that's fine. This is just happens to be a little bag that I just cut a sheet of off of it. So it could be a grocery bag or what have you. But I'm going to set that there over the magnet, and then I'm going to take another magnet here, and this particular magnet I have put a little bit of a magic marker on this side. So one side is black and the other side is silver, and all I got to do is just snap this close to it, and it shows me that the part that I painted black or used a marker on and made it black, well, that's pointing against the skull. So these things have a polarity, so it is snapped into place. You heard it click a minute ago. Now, if I try to remove this right now, the pull on these magnets is so strong, it would actually rip that other magnet out of that putty, because that putty is not completely set. It's pretty firm, but it's not rock solid yet. So I have to leave that in place. Now, for the leg, this is the leg that goes on here. I am going to, I'm going to put a little slit in here. Actually, I'm probably going to just cut out a little piece here. I just need to make a way for that to flex a little bit easier. That way I'm not getting any resistance on that. And then what I need to do is be able to put this leg in place. Now, when I get this leg in place, okay, right now it's got the cavity on the backside, so the magnet that I just clicked on there is fitting right in that hole. And so I've got just a little bit more of my epoxy putty that I'm going to put in that hole. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and figure out, okay, where is this thing going to line up? I may need to use some tape or perhaps a rubber band. So I'll probably use a rubber band. Eventually, I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of this Mylar off of here, this little bag. So I'm not going to need all this. And that'll give me room to put tape on here. So really we're just kind of covering up our existing magnet and putty here. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I'm getting ready to put more putty in here when I put it in the back of this leg. and I don't want that putty sticking to my statue. It's okay if it sticks to this Mylar because it'll peel right off. So I'm going to take my little bit of putty here, and I'm going to just wedge it down into the hole. Whoops. Get it down in there. And then I will use a tool to press it down in here. Now I'm not worried about getting it all the way down in the indention. I mean, I'm going to get it in there, but what's more important to me is to get it to stick to the inside of this resin. So, I could use maybe, grab a paintbrush here, a little bit of water. Now I'm going to use the brush handle to just press that putty into that cavity there. Roll over the edge. Rolling over that edge makes it nice and smooth. Okay, like so. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put the foot in place because the magnet is already there for that. And then I'm going to set this leg in place, and I'm going to press it against that skull. And what that's going to do is build up an indentation in that putty for where the other magnet is going to go. Now, once again, I'm going to use my piece of painter's tape here to help hold the leg in place. Okay. And this is just going to hold it temporarily because I'm going to go ahead and throw a rubber band on that as well. So, alrighty folks, so here we are with the Death Becomes Her piece. Flash forward just a little bit. What I have done is I let the putty set up overnight in both the skull and in the leg. I went ahead once that was done, and I put just a little bit of super glue in each one of those just to make sure that my magnet was not going to come out, because a lot of times those magnets are really they're like a finish, almost like a chrome finish on them. It is a real slick finish, so I wanted to make sure that I had a little extra adhesion there. So a little bit of super glue, a little thin layer of putty over each of those, and just smooth it out. And then with this case, I went ahead and started painting the base coat on the leg. So I can see that maybe I have just a little more work here. I can see just a little demarcation where the magnet is going to sit, or where it is actually. It's already in there. And I could leave this alone. No one would ever see it but me. But it fits in there quite nicely. And so all that's left is go ahead and painting the rest of the kit. So that's it for this time around here in the Quarantine Studios studio, and we'll see you next time.